You're listening to Mark of the Maker, and this is episode 1. So we decided to record a podcast, and this is it. The show is called Mark of the Maker. My name is Mark Steiner, and the concept here is basically a panel discussion with knife makers Tom Krein, Sean Kendrick, and Michael Birch on really what will end up being a variety of topics, and at some point along the way, probably some interviews and conversations with other makers and collectors as well. So, Tom, you want to kick this thing off with a little intro, maybe talk a little bit about yourself, where you're from, that kind of stuff for folks who might not know you.
Sure. My name is Tom Krein, and I set up in Gentry, Arkansas. I've been making knives since 1993, and next year is going to be 25 years. And I primarily do stock removal. Well, I only do stock removal. How about that? I've tried to forge a little bit, and it sucks.
I was about to say, I've seen you forge before, so let's not just say only.
Yeah, I've done 2 blades, and neither one of them got finished, so...
They still count.
Oh, I've
someday
done way more blades than that didn't get finished. Shit.
It's like a competition. Who's got the biggest stack of scrap?
Oh, yeah. God.
All right, cool. Sean, you want to do the same kind of thing? Introduce yourself to folks that don't know you?
Absolutely. My name is Sean Kendrick. I work out of Aberdeen, Ohio. I've been making since 1998. And, man, this is what I do. It's who I am.
All right. Michael Birch, you want to do your thing?
I am Michael Birch, as Mark just said. I am out of Ozark, Missouri. Started around 2002, seriously. Made some stuff when I was a kid, but they don't really count. Yeah, I just love doing it. And here we are.
So, I don't know, did this whole thing, this is kind of your idea, Birch. Can we blame you for this? Or
Probably so. I'd say mainly because I started getting into podcasts a lot. As the other guys know, we've got a whole lot of time where we have to have something to listen to, either music or audiobooks and whatever. Then I got into podcasts and I talked to all of you guys on the phone a lot about a lot of things that we're going to end up talking about on this podcast. And then we kind of all were like, we should turn this into a podcast. And so here we are, being all fancy.
Right. Good. So at least we know who to blame if this goes all horribly wrong.
That's right. It's all Sean's idea.
Fault.
It's all
Man, I've been blamed for worse. To hell with it.
That's true.
Well, like you said, we've had a bunch of conversations about this kind of stuff that we're going to end up talking about during the podcast over the next probably whole bunch of episodes if the plans all come together. But what do you guys think is, what do you want to say about why we're doing this? Some people are going to say, we talk to you guys at shows or we read stuff in your Facebook groups, but what do you think this really wants to add to the whole thing?
Tom, you can ask the train that's coming through over there.
I muted my mic.
Oh. I'd say, we talk to people at shows. We do, but there's like so little time to actually spend with people. And there's just a ton of things to talk about: the industry, the people, social media. Where do we, what's good advertising these days? All this stuff, and like I said, we'll talk about this stuff for hours on the phone, and I think it needs to kind of be out there. We're not.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say I agree. I think this will be an interesting kind of a inside look at the industry, and Mark asked us to kind of write down some stuff on what we hope folks get from it. And one of the things I wrote down is I hope it comes off as, a group of friends sitting around a table in the pit at Blade Show. And, I think that's kind of the feel that we can get.
So I need to be drinking?
That's a good description. Probably.
That's up to you.
I don't know if that's exactly a good idea.
Yeah, that could go horribly wrong pretty fast.
That can be a special episode.
One of the things that I think will be interesting probably for folks, maybe not, I don't know, is the fact that, as much as collector guys like me kind of think of themselves as, maybe geeks about this whole thing or nerds or whatever, I think you guys seriously geek out on the whole knife thing, and I think that's very interesting, and I think folks will like to hear about that.
History dorks. I mean, that is a good way of putting it.
Well, man, that's the...
You go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, man, it's the thread that draws us all three together. I mean, we're all three really different cats, but at the heart of it, we all care about knives in a very similar way.
Yeah, the history is important, and you don't see a lot of it anymore. There's a lot of people kind of forgetting where some of this stuff started. And not to say that we are the end-all, be-all, historians of knife stuff, but we've studied it, for lack of a better term.
Well, it's our passion.
We know,
yeah.
We know old school wasn't 3 years ago.
Yes.
And I think that's part of, people say there's bad parts with, Facebook, Instagram. And I think one of the worst things about it, there's a lot of good positives, but one of the worst things is the memory, is so short.
Exactly.
2 years ago is a long time ago, much less, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I really think there's some really neat stuff that we can look at and learn from.
Yeah. And there's a lot of years of knife making too within us, all of us, and collecting with Mark and collecting with us, because we are, we started out as collecting,
right.
Just like a lot of people.
100%.
So it's hopefully it becomes a very interesting kind of podcast, and we want to have fun with it. It's like Tom said, guys talking, shooting the shit and having fun. And maybe our perspective is interesting to enough people, or maybe not. And we do this one single podcast. Who knows? But but we enjoy talking about it. So hopefully other people like to hear it.
Well, I think it'll be really interesting also just kind of figuring out who you guys are too. I mean, just in the few conversations we've had, I've learned a lot of stuff about both you guys already that I didn't know, and we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah, so, quite a while.
Pretty neat media that we can use, and I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, Tom. So where we're going to go next with this whole thing. So this is kind of episode 1, just to sort of introduce the idea of what we want to do, where we think this is going to go. And then the next 3 episodes will be intros for each of the 3 makers. So we'll do an episode with Michael, we'll do an episode with Tom, episode with Sean, and kind of focus on each individual maker and some of their background and where they came from, what their influences were. Like Michael said, kind of how they got into this whole thing in the first place. And I think it'll be very interesting for folks to see some of the differences and some of the commonality between, the different folks involved. And I think it makes for a very interesting discussion with not just me asking questions, but with you guys asking each other questions as we go through it too. And I think folks will get a kick out of that.
We're getting
it's going to be a lot of fun.
The nitty gritty.
Yeah.
The deep, dark secrets of your knife making past.
To the quick.
Yeah. Which happens way too often in knife making.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. Mark, did you ever introduce yourself?
No. I'm Mark Steiner. I'm just a dude, man. I'm a collector, friends with these guys for a long, long time, and a bunch of folks out in the rest of the knife world. And kind of like these guys, I enjoy history and understanding where stuff came from. I feel like I've got a lot to learn as we go through this whole thing as well. So I look forward to what I'm going to be able to pick up from some of these conversations and some of the influences, and starting to put 2 and 2 together on different things that these guys do with their work that may have been influenced or come from someplace else. So that's me.
Mark also makes some wicked cool beads.
Oh yeah. The Ray Gun Bead Project.
There you go.
So that's a fun thing.
What are some of the topics that we're thinking about, Mark?
So we're, like Michael said, we're going to talk about history, not, that I felt a little weird when we were thinking about these topics. I don't think we're talking about back to the Bronze Age or whatever, but I think in what probably should be considered modern history, right? Like,
Frank Ricktig, John Nelson Cooper, guys like that.
Yeah. We're going to start in the 60s and 70s and move around all over the place.
Why stop there? Skagel's further back than that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That kind of time frame to current. Tom mentioned some things just a couple minutes ago about social media and its influence on kind of the last couple of years of the whole social media influence on what's going on. And that's got a bunch of different aspects dating back to forums and other stuff, all the way to Facebook, Instagram. And, Tom kind of made a mention of some of the challenges that can come with it. Some of the nice parts about it, they're easy to use, but they expire quickly. The information seems to, compared to some other durable things like books or Facebook message forums and other stuff. We'll talk about that stuff a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about shows and lotteries and concerns people have and that kind of thing. Michael mentioned, I think all three of these guys were into knives before they started making knives, and that is pretty cool, right? It takes something that you were into and became what you do for a living. And I think it'll be an interesting conversation about what you guys collected or what you were into and what you are even into today. I know Michael, when I am at a show with him, he's chasing some very specific old stuff that he'd like to add to his collection. I think that's kind of cool, and I'm sure you guys have some similar things. I know Sean and I were talking about some pretty neat pieces that we saw. Fantasy knife kind of stuff.
Fantasy pieces and sawback survival knives. Hell yeah.
Oh, yes. We are going to talk about the movies that got this sort of generation here. It's a bottomless pit of things that we can talk about. And Mark will be here to sort of cut us off when we get a little bit long-winded and a little too chatty, which will happen at times.
Yeah, he's going to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm. But I think it'll be fun, So I hope everyone.
Yeah, and go ahead.
That was about all. Hope everyone enjoys it. That was all I had to say, Mark.
Well, we've talked a bunch about having some guests on the show. That'll be super cool. We can invite some makers that have been doing this thing for as long as you guys, hopefully maybe even a little longer. We can find some guys that are interested in talking with us about it. Some new makers. I know that as much as we like to think about and have had lots of conversations, the four of us, about, how things are different today, and maybe that's good or bad or different or harder or easier. I would guess that new makers have a unique set of challenges that maybe you guys didn't have to deal with starting out. And I think it'd be really interesting to hear that from them and give the opportunity for you guys to talk with a little bit about those topics with newer makers and some collectors as well, because there's a number of guys out there that are very interesting collector folks, either with interesting personal background and or interests in collecting. I think it'd be a fun conversation with some of those guys.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're looking to have a good time.
Yeah. There's so many characters in the community.
There really are.
Yeah,
a lot of good guys.
Tends to be a character,
And, as you're kind of hearing as we go through this thing, we're definitely not pros at this whole thing. We're muddling our way through, I think is probably a good way to put it, but we're going to give it our best shot, and hopefully folks will like it.
I'd say by episode 80, we might get it down. But, we're going to have to figure out what works for us, and hopefully everyone sticks around for it.
Yeah, everybody just bear with us. Give us a little bit of time, and hopefully we'll make it worth your while.
And don't make fun of Tom too much about, stuff. He's doing his best.
I'm kind of sensitive.
Yeah.
Funny noises in the background, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just gets a random train going through there.
He's not a hobo.
Yeah. What can I do, man? I'll try to mute it when the train comes through.
I think we should make it part of the show.
Watch out for the railroad bulls, man. They crack your skull.
Don't make me use my train sound effect.
But do you have a bindle?
I don't think
There's
so.
your word of the day, bindle. Go Google that shit.
There you go.
That's actually what I'm doing right now.
That'll be it.
I didn't want to sound
That'll be
stupid.
a standard show item. Sean's word to Google of this episode.
Yeah, I hear him Googling.
All right.
I got to get a quieter keyboard.
Googling with an apostrophe is a code word, just for the folks listening along at home.
Oh.
All right. So what we did do is we set up a Facebook group, and Tom, what's the Facebook group called? Name of the show, right? Mark of the Maker.
Correct.
And so the Facebook group is out there. Folks can go hit that, and hopefully what we'll be able to use that for is to be able to post reference things. Like we're going to end up talking about some very cool knives that either these guys have in their collections or that were strong influences on them, and some books and other stuff. And we can post up some information on where folks can see some of those things and find books and other stuff.
We can also give them a heads up when there's a new show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yep. When there's shows going on, when there's collaboration projects happening.
Projects we're working on.
Production deals.
You got the Instagrams going. Do you know, I actually have no idea how to reference a thing on Instagram. How do you do that, Mark? Where's it at?
It's at Mark of the Maker, all is one word.
Oh, that's easy.
So just like at Birch Tree Blade Works, it's at Mark of the Maker. That's where they find it. And that's live as well. Just there's one thing started just to kind of get the account ready and rolling, and so folks can find it.
I followed it.
Oh,
yeah, so far, not very exciting.
What? Already?
You need to pump some photos into that thing.
Yeah. I'll get right on that. So maybe last thing is just kind of what's going on with you guys before we wrap up this super brief intro episode. What do you got going on in the shop? What's your big projects lately? What are you working on?
I can go first. I'm doing a batch of kitchen utility knives, and I should have them finished up this week. And I'm working on 100 knives for an order that's due in January. So we're working on the handles on those, and we should start grinding blades on those next week.
100 knives, nice.
You do that thing where we all kind of say we when it's usually just like me. You do the same thing, don't you, Tom? Which is very weird.
I got a mouse in my pocket.
I say we a lot when I'm like talking about stuff, but it's just me, which is kind of an odd thing to do. Sean, what are you working on?
I got 2 folders in the works. I've been going at it kind of slow. I just finished out the last show for the year, so I've been a little on the lazy side.
Yeah, that will take the wind out of your sails for a bit.
Nothing wrong with that.
Unlike Tom and his 100 fixed blades, whatnot he's working on.
Tom, what's that all about? Is that a thing where folks pick handle material and you build them all as a batch, or is that for a retailer, or what's that all about?
So the 100 knives is we're doing that for TKI actually. So it's part of the part of the gift package that you can buy. Nice. So we're working on that, and then the kitchen knives are a signature series, and so they're all exactly the same. There's 25 pieces, all numbered, and basically I lotto those off, and we're working. We should have those out this week, and yeah, a lot of work. Basically, I've got about 150 knives in progress right now on the bench.
We didn't squeeze some super secret information out of you just now, did we? Like a scoop?
I don't know. I don't think so. You can maybe bleep the I don't know. I'm not worried about it, honestly. I don't think it's super secret.
It's not far away, so
yeah. By the time this comes out, it'll be a week or two.
If you didn't sign an NDA, fuck it.
Plus, Tom's the merch master. You got any merch going, Tom?
We've got mugs, and we just ordered some beanies, so the beanies will be coming in probably maybe this week even. But yeah, lots of mugs in the store. Just got some new Molly clips in from Steel Flame, and yeah.
Tom's got baby bibs and doorstops and
bobbleheads of himself.
I have done onesies in the past, which is pretty awesome. I did them as gifts. I did like 5 or 6 of them. But
that's fantastic. What about you, Birch? I know you're making rocket pods over there, all shapes and sizes.
I'm doing jack shit.
You got a bottle opener in
Dude,
for
come
you.
on, the Galaga Rocket Pod is awesome.
Thanks, man. I like those. It lets me play around on the machine, mess around with what I'm doing wrong. Allows me to not finish any of the really detailed boulders I need to be working on. No, I've been,
Sometimes you just need a break from that.
It do, and the winter gets to me pretty hard. To call my winter of discontents because it's you kind of stay in the same place. It's cold. I don't know, something about it. But so I'm working on TKI pieces. I've got to really start kicking ass on those because Christmas is around the corner. By the time this comes out, Christmas will be behind us, probably. But yeah, I've been working on bottle rockets. I've got my mid-tech project, which isn't really a mid-tech since I'm making it myself. But I'm really trying to get the TKI stuff out of the way first and then really start running the MeTech stuff on there or whatever it's going to be called.
MeTech, I like that.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep messing around and that's going to end up being the name of it.
Should be like My Tech for Michael,
Ooh.
Oh boy.
right?
Then someone will just be like, so you misspelled mid-tech? No, man.
Tom gives the while he says right, he's giving the knowing
yeah.
nod. Right. MeTech.
Inside he's like, I killed it on that one.
They're gonna love me over
What do
there.
you got going on, Mark? What kind of beads you got?
Well, that's a great question. I'm probably going to take a little break from it, but I got to do some blasted beads. I got a little bit more Zerk I got to do. I'm going to try to do something fun with a collaboration project I'm not ready to officially talk about yet, but I got a kind of a cool collaboration thing coming up, I think. So once we're ready to get that out there, then I'll talk about it a little bit more.
Interesting. Hopefully you're not
Very
talking
cool.
about the two that I've got sitting here, are you?
What?
Oh.
No,
Way to go, Birch.
not that. No, this will be like a bead and a cool matching item. That'll be kind of fun, hopefully.
Interesting.
String.
Birch is like, that son of a bitch didn't even tell me about this. What's he talking about?
It's with
It's a bead and a string.
it's a collaboration with Mr.
Oh,
Paracord.
hey. Right.
Match made in heaven.
My boy over at Mr. Paracord. Yep.
Interesting factoid. I can't tie little paracord knots for shit.
Yeah, me
No.
either.
The fancy ones and all that, I just I cannot do them.
Nope.
I get that sometimes with the bead thing. I'll post a picture of a bead and then someone will say, "Hey man, why don't you tie a nice knot?" Like I can't. I've tried it. I've followed the little online tutorials. I can't tie a fancy knot. For some reason I just can't do it.
Dude, I've got one of your beads, so I've never put it on a knife because I can't figure out how to tie the knot. kind of embarrassed about that, but
Do you want us to bleep that out?
it's the
or-
truth. No, I'll own it.
Sean, what can't you do?
Oh, dude,
you
there ain't
go.
too much I can't do. I'm a goddamn wonder.
There
Work
you go.
fast.
Yeah, well, yeah. Way to call me out on that one. Shit.
Damn.
Rub salt in it, man. Just rub it in there.
I am in this.
Oh, pot calling
Yeah,
the kettle
I'm
black.
in
I
the same
think.
boat. That's about the only way I can say that. I think we may be the two slowest makers ever.
Criticism from the man with like 500 sets of handles sitting in the shop because he doesn't want to finish making knives.
Hey, those are projects in the works.
In the works. Those are rainy day knives.
Right?
Yeah.
Any minute now, I'll be getting those TKI knives started.
That'll be about January 5th or shit if I'm lucky.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap this thing up?
I think that's good. I think that's a wrap.
All right. Cool. So the first episode following this, which will be episode 2, will be a little intro with Mr. Tom Crine.
woo.
So,
gonna
baby. Get
gonna
your
be-
questions ready.
I'm going to make a list.
Good times.
Birch has got all old episodes of the dating game queued up. Get a bunch of goofy 60s whoopee questions. I can feel it happening.
Oh, dude, bring in the Gene Rayburn back. Hell yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll have another episode together for you shortly. Tom brought up a good point about how often are we going to do this, and I don't know if we know yet. We're going to try to get these intro episodes kind of done, hopefully in fairly short order. So hopefully you'll see episodes 2, 3, and 4 come along pretty quick, and then we'll go from there. We got to get through the holiday. Everybody's busy with family stuff and everything else.
But the good thing is it's enjoyable. So, hopefully we just enjoy doing them, and they come fairly fast.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for listening.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net or in his Facebook group, Crine Knives. Tom also has an Instagram at Crine Knives. Michael Birch has a webpage at birchtreeblades.com, a Facebook group at Birchtree Blade Works, and an Instagram account at BirchtreeBlades. For myself and the Raygun Division Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com, and I do have a Facebook group, Raygun Division, and the Instagram is under my name, at msteiner. For the show itself, we did start a Facebook page called Mark of the Maker. Please check it out. And we have an Instagram feed as well, at Mark of the Maker, where we'll post some behind-the-scenes things from the show and some other stuff that you might find interesting. And last but not least, the ultra cool background music that we've used for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.